Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first video that I'm making in a series of how to build your own outdoor kitchen. As you see in the background, I've already began making my first section. This is my cold area. I'll take a look around. This is going to include my dishwasher, one of my two refrigerators, a sink area, as well as some storage and an ice bin. And I will take additional videos of how I've made these joints and made these individual pieces. And I've already had the plumber come out and tap into my existing hot water and cold water, as well as drain from my master bath. And I managed to create and build this all in about 2.5 days worth time. Really, in one weekend I got quite a bit done once I figured out the basic process. Now, one of the questions I wanted to address in this video is why I went with the 20 gauge steel studs versus block or basic wood framing. First one is wood framing. I didn't want to deal with them rotting in the future. It's real hot here in Texas. And coming from the box stores, it's real difficult to get nice, good, straight wood studs locally. On top of it is you're putting possible gas grills, even charcoal grills that get up well into 1,000 degrees. And that heat, even with concrete board, can help dry rot out the wood a lot quicker than they normally would. Second option that you have, and it's more than enough viable option, is using concrete blocks, cinder blocks. You can even use the half blocks. Concrete them up, face it with some type of stone, and you're good to go, or even stucco. The reason I didn't go with block was, one, I was going to need a lot of blocks, and the pure weight of just moving them comes into play. Number two is my existing slab is only 4 inches thin, and I also running over some concrete pavers that I installed in a certain part. And I was real worried about it being too much weight on an existing slab. If you're out in the country, out in the backyard, you haven't poured a slab, and you pour a nice thick slab, concrete block will more than welcome, be more than easy enough for you to install your outdoor kitchen. The other problem with a concrete block that I saw was you lose a lot of internal space with it, and I wanted to have as much storage space as possible for all my pots, my pans, my charcoal, my pellets, and everything else that I wanted to keep outside. So that came to steel framing studs. What I'm going to do with the steel framing stud is make a frame, board it up with Duro-Rock or concrete board, and then face it with some type of stone, as well as put a concrete countertop on top. I did not use steel framing studs from Lowe's or Home Depot because those are only 25 gauge and they're really thin, they're real tinny. Any local good drywall or steel supply store locally will have a lot thicker gauge steel, and so I went with a 20 gauge steel stud from a local supplier. Next I wanted to show is my basic setup, my tool setup. Here I have my circular saw, and I bought some DeWalt abrasive cutoff blades. They're real cheap on Amazon. I'll add them to the notes to this video. And they're about $8 a piece, and they make cutting the steel studs a much simpler job. You can see that I set up a stop, and I've adjusted it a couple times. One for making my running boards, and then another one for the steel studs. Just set the length that you need, and then everything comes out in a nice consistent length. I got some barbecue gloves here that I'm using. They're just like a welder's glove. Much needed when you're dealing with the cutoff blades because you get a lot of sparks and it will burn you. I also have some earmuffs and safety goggles, as well as my fire extinguisher just in case. And everything else is a basic tool that you may already have laying around, or you just need to pick up from your local hardware store. I have some framing squares, a speed square, I got some various levels, small levels, and even a longer 6-foot level. Plenty of Sharpies. They seem to dry out on me pretty quickly. Vice grips and channel locks. These come in handy if you need to back out a screw. The self-tapping screws don't pull all the way out, so this helps pulling those out. And the most critical, and when dealing with the framings, the steel framing studs, is the C-clamps. These welding C-clamps really come in handy. To make your frame, and I'll have a second video on this, you make it a 90-degree frame, you clamp this in place, and then run your self-driving screw. It makes it a lot quicker and a lot easier to process. If you can't find heavier gauge steel studs, these tin snips will come in handy when you do need to make some modifications for some of the supports. These were rated for 20 gauge, but I could not get them to cut this gauge of steel in a very easy manner. So all my cuts have been made on my circular saw with a brace-up disc on it. I may get out my 4-inch angle grinder and put a metal cutting disc on that to make it a little bit easier. So that's it for this video today. The next coming video, I'll go through a design process, talking about the triangle of how to put your cold area or hot area in your prep area, as well as graphing and taping out your area before you begin. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment if you liked it, or if you have any comments on how to make them better for the future. Thank you.